Hello, everybody. Thank you for being with us. I assume that you have been in the plenary until now, so there are little introductions to be made, especially for Miss Amanda Ellis, who is here, who spoke magnificently, I would say. I mean, and she has been inspiring in many ways. Also, greeting you all in Turkish. I won't be able to do it. I remember only that my very first girlfriend, I was 17, she gave me this kind of write-up in all languages, and there was a language that in Italian was not translated. And it said, Seni seviyorum. I think this is I love you in Turkish. Well, I think that they tell us we can't say I love you in a way that is not just passionate, but it's in terms of acceptance of all of us, you know, for who we are. And so we can greet one another probably with the same terms. I don't know if it's appropriate, but namaste, namaste. Yeah. So, and in Hawaiian, exactly. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so in Hawaiian, aloha. Can you all say aloha? That means I recognize the light in you that is the same as the light in me and all beings. So it's compassion, love, hello, I greet you, I see you. We are all going to create a better world together.
So, since you originate love in this country and more people are coming on board here, let's now passionately instead discuss about the subject of not just curriculum development, because if we talk about curriculum, as we said, curriculum is content. No, it's content of what the pedagogy should be, of how we are going to also deliver education. But let's talk about education in general. You allow me to say that it's less technical. So we will accept all your contributions. We will be happy to hear about your views, as Gary Jacobs, the president of the World Academy, was saying before. I'm somehow gaining time here, as you realize, because I want more people to join us in this room. More participants are coming in. Online, we have Kanishka BEDI. Would you introduce yourself? Just a few words about you. We are self-introducing ourselves, so let's start from you. You are farther away. Tell us who you are and what is your interest in this area.
My name is Kanishka BEDI. I'm president of World Council of Comparative Education Societies. My interest is in curriculum, especially from the aspects of self-management, life management. And it's a pleasure being a part of this discussion because we need to find solutions going forward. And the time is now, because future is just our imagination. What we are experiencing at this moment, which is now, is what matters most. So we have to really do something now rather than wait for the future, because future never comes. It's only now. Thank you.
We continue with the round of introductions. It's going to be quite fast in reality, because we have next to me is Amanda Ellis, that now does not need further introductions, but and we have we have Elena MUSTAKOVA. Elena, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Dr. Elena MUSTAKOVA, and I have 4 decades in education and psychology, both as a psychotherapist, clinical psychologist, but also as a professor and educator. And the more I've been in my fields, the more I've come to realize the absolute need to become transdisciplinary in order to respond to the needs of the 21st century. So that is my commitment at this time. I have founded a transdisciplinary institute for consciousness, society, and well-being, because to me, these are the big issues that humanity and every one of us and every one of you is facing right now, and they can only be addressed from transdisciplinary perspectives, but I'll say more about that in a few minutes. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm going to greet everybody in Hawaiian this time, which is where I live. Aloha. And I'd like you all to say aloha back. Fantastic. So we have the right spirit for our interactive session. And as Donato said, we very much want to hear from you. You have the opportunity to tell us your ideas, and we commit to making sure that those ideas will be heard on the world stage. So know that we are the conduit for your voices for change. Thank you.
So the point is what you heard before, I think, was a continuum of a discourse around education, how education can be transformed, how it can be not just imparted, but how it can be shared. The importance of sharing experiences, importance of having an integrated perspective, a systemic perspective to education, where students and teachers alike participate, where we know what we want to achieve, and we also operate in a fashion that we inspire one another. That this inspiration is very important. I mean, the fact that we can really motivate one another. I am motivated by an audience that is responding, you know, that is attentive, or at least that shows interest in terms of what I'm saying. And the same goes, I think, with you. If I don't pay attention to what you're saying, of course, you're going to watch your telephone or do other things. So I would like to hear from, first of all, from our two speakers, because you are also a speaker, Elena, and rapporteur of this session. And the same goes with our friend in California right now. So, well, what is your systemic perspective, if there is any, or what are the ingredients of success? I mean, in terms of education, in terms of also intuition, I would say, and creativity. We used a lot of the word creativity because people, all of us, we need to be creative the way we educate ourselves and the way we envisage a future in terms of education. Elena, would you like to start?
Thank you. Thank you. So our focus here is on curriculum, more specifically. But I will definitely support what was said, that there's no curriculum that works, that is meaningful, without inspiration. And so inspiration and inspiring curriculum, what would that look like? An inspiring curriculum right now that also prepares you for the complex challenges that you are facing as future professionals, but also as citizens of your country and planetary citizens. What would be an inspiring curriculum? So one thing that I'd like to suggest is that because knowledge is advancing so rapidly right now, things that were taught even 5 years ago may be a bit outdated in certain disciplines. So one, we have extremely rapidly, dynamically developing frontiers of knowledge and learning. And second, we have equally dramatically augmenting and accelerating serious global challenges that are facing humanity. And here, of course, the most obvious one is the climate crisis that we're in, the sustainability crisis. We have exceeded planetary carrying capacity in a number of important categories already. And so we are basically living at the expense of future generations. And these things are happening so rapidly, along with scientific discoveries, that one really has a serious question to face when we ask, well, then what should curriculum look like? And so I would like to suggest that under these circumstances, we have to think about an integral curriculum. What does that mean? in integral theory, and that is a philosophical understanding. It's also a psychological and a scientific understanding. We know that inner and outer needs to be fully connected. Inner needs to be reflected in outer and vice versa. And that is very different than the way we've managed curriculum and education up till now. As you know, curriculum was divided, or shall we say fragmented, into disciplines. And within the disciplines, the focus was primarily on the outer, unless you were studying psychology. And even then, in order for psychology to become a science, it decided to define itself as focusing on human behavior. But more and more, what we are realizing is that there is a hidden dimension to everything we do. For example, there's a hidden dimension to how we do the distribution of planetary resources. What is that hidden dimension? That hidden dimension is human consciousness. It is the way we think, the way we perceive, okay, the way we approach reality. And that's the hidden dimension of human consciousness was the one thing that you don't get really prepared on in your degrees. Nobody teaches you anything about human consciousness, hardly. What is the relevance of human consciousness in finance, in climate, in medicine? What is the relevance of human consciousness in any field that you can name for me? It is always the human mind that is the mediator of everything we do, not just the decision maker, but also the mediator. And what is mind? Until recently, we didn't even have a comprehensive understanding of mind, and no discipline, including psychiatry, which is supposed to study mental disturbances, had a definition of mind until the turn of the century, when a team of transdisciplinary scientists led by psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Siegel in California came up with what I still consider to be the most groundbreaking definition of mind right now. And here, this definition, and again, it's a team product, mind you, it is not one person. Mind is the embodied and interpersonal flow of energy and information. Once again, embodied, mind you, not enskulled. So mind is a lot more than brain. We now know that the brain does not produce mind. Brain and mind are not identical. Okay, so it's not the enskulled, it's the embodied and interpersonal flow of energy and information. Wow. So mind depends on our interpersonal spaces. It depends on our on the way that we show up for each other, on the inspiration that we draw from each other. And you heard, I believe, Professor Brunhuber, who spoke about the input-output fallacy just now in the plenary session. And the fallacy that if we put more into education, we'll get a greater output. And he pointed out that 3/4 of the output, of the outcome from education does not seem to depend directly on the input. It depends on what? On that embodied and interpersonal flow of energy information. And then you heard our last speaker in the plenary session speak about habits of heart. In other words, how we show up, how we are with each other has a lot to do with how we learn. It was also suggested if we meditate, how we eat, how we center ourselves, how we give gratitude to the universe, all of these things have something to do with how effective our minds are and how comprehensively they understand the full systemic flow of energy and information that is relevant for your disciplines. So you see a syllabus or really a curriculum for the 21st century has to address the wholeness of mind. That's an integral curriculum. And it also has to be more and more, and that's what we're seeing, transdisciplinary. It has to focus on problems that humanity is facing and how a range of different disciplines can inform the solutions of these problems, always with the awareness of human consciousness. And by the way, how many of you know that human consciousness actually is on an evolutionary continuum, that we evolve, our consciousness structurally has the potential to evolve not just from birth into early adulthood, but throughout the adult years. There are many stages of growth and development that are potentially available for us. And the more we grow, the more our consciousness evolves, the more comprehensively we approach and understand the problems that we're dealing with. So all of that is now a radically new view of curriculum that makes it dynamic and responsive to the escalating challenges that we're facing and also to the advances of science. And finally, I will say that just to remind you, how many of you know the term epistemology? Do you know what epistemology is? It's a branch of philosophy that studies what? Epistemology is a branch of philosophy that studies how we come to know. It is extremely important because the epistemology of education until now and throughout the 20th century was an epistemology that was essentially mechanistic. It studied things by separating them, breaking them apart, and studying them in their individual separate entities. What we now understand is that all living systems are profoundly dynamic and interdependent. And so when to study things separately or ourselves as individuals only is not adequate way of knowing. So epistemology can be replaced with the term way of knowing. So we now need an epistemology at the center of the curriculum for the 21st century, which many of us have written about as a heart-mind epistemology, a heart-mind epistemology that uses the fullness of our intelligence. Remember, it is embodied and interpersonal. It also, of course, uses our rational analytical faculties. It also connects us to all living systems and allows us to be learning throughout life as we experience our living things. We grasp to analyze it and understand it rationally and linearly, but we also understand it with our hearts, with our connectivity, with our spirits, which are more holistic ways of knowing. So again, as you hear me speak about a curriculum for the 21st century, you don't hear mentioned any one particular discipline, but rather the interface of disciplines in terms of what is important for us to know, what skills do we need to have in order to show up fully, meaningfully, and competently for the problems of our age and our century. And a closing thought, which I cannot forget to mention. The reality, the geopolitical reality in which we live right now is so tragic. Right in this classroom, there are representatives, there are students who have come from war-torn lands, who carry trauma, who carry loss. I know here people that I spoke to that are absolutely putting on hold 2/3 of their hearts in order to be able to study and advance. Now, obviously, this isn't getting better, it's getting worse. Why? Because another fundamental aspect of the curriculum for the 21st century needs to be our understanding of the evolution of human civilization from separate entities, which primarily defined who we are, towards our collective shared humanity and the way that we're able to collaborate with each other and become more and more united in our diversity, creating systems that are just and united for all. That is the socio-historical direction of the evolution of human consciousness, and it has to be central in the curriculum of the 21st century, because what we're being taught right now, these split and polarized identities, are the cause of so much suffering and are intensifying the environmental and climate crisis disproportionately. So every aspect of curriculum for the 21st century essentially has to be fundamentally rethought. And I know there's many people here in this room who will be busy at work with that. So thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic, thank you. And Kanishka, let's go direct to you next.
Thank you so much. Uh, Firstly, I would like to thank the speaker who's just spoke. Uh, and she has really allowed me to delve a little deeper into what is required to be done and how the divisions everywhere have to be converted into integration. That's how this whole universe has been created. It's a single entity, the whole universe, which unfortunately, by virtue of our identities and the way we are born and brought up in human lives, how we divide and how we identify each person as a separate entity from the universe, which is not the right way of looking at it. All of us are interdependent. The system of photosynthesis, for example, in plants, and how the plants and trees emit carbon dioxide, oxygen, in fact, and they take carbon oxide. That simply shows how humans are dependent upon these plants and trees. So the whole concept of sustainability emanates from there. And of course, we know that interdependence is not limited to just plants and trees and humans, but everything that we see around us, including insects and reptiles and animals. So the thing is, when we are a single entity, how these divisions occurred and how the state of mind we are in, despite getting all the modern education, so much so that we succumb to violence quite often. Just few days back, one of a young man here uh, shot down the CEO of one of the biggest, largest healthcare insurance companies. This man studied in Ivy League University, master's in computer science, a very bright young man, and he succumbed to violence. What happened? What went wrong? And this is not a one-off case. It is across the board, especially here in the United States, where you can easily get guns. And because of the frustration in the mind, you can go to a school, a Walmart, a Costco, any fair or any big activity, including a lot of crowds, and you just vent up your frustration there by firing shots and killing everybody there. How did we reach there? And this is not only the United States, it's everywhere. The whole concept of terrorism is based upon violence, and violence starts in the mind. It's not only the external environment. So what are the things that we are not aware of despite the best of education? Perhaps we don't know about ourselves, what goes inside us in our mind, and how that mind should be conditioned to bring peace there first, and then only we can talk properly about climate change. So the thing is, the climate change and other concepts are the effect. We have never paid attention to the causes, and the causes are inside ourselves as individuals, each one of us, wherever we are throughout the world. The same education system, more or less, thanks to colonization, which of course made sure that we receive a very homogeneous kind of education everywhere. So we all are basing our philosophies on Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest, which means theory of evolution. We are competing against each other. Each human being is vying for the resources on the earth. The more resources you get, the more successful you are. So if we go down that line, we are treating the path of never-ending dissatisfaction, and that builds up in the human mind. We feel we are not special compared to the other special names around us, which media and the whole ecosystem keeps throwing at us. So we are basically a lot of unsettled lot, and we are waiting for our turn to turn special somehow compared to others, but we never understand that basically we are more or less the same. We are equals. So the principle of equality is at the root of sustainability for
That's
going like
perfect.
this.
And that's a perfect place to pass to the students, the principle of equality, and that we all have an equal voice. So we are going to pass the mic to every single one of you. I know that some of you have English and some don't. So please be prepared. We are going to now take your input based on these two brilliant commentators. So we want to hear from you one thing that you want added to your curriculum. You all heard me in the plenary session. I think we should be doing sustainability, climate. So if you want to just say those words, I will write them down. I'd be very happy. But if you have something else you would like to say, please tell us. If your English is not great, ask your seatmate to translate or just pass the mic on. Just one word.
And another word that we also heard from the last speaker is peace or positive peace. And another word that we also heard is the interpersonal relations that should be cultivated in any higher grade university, in any institution. The interpersonal skills, those the so-called soft skills. I'm interested to know if these soft skills are part of your background, and if you think that more emphasis should be put on that. When I pass the mic to, are you helping us?
One word, so be thinking about one word.
Words each.
Interpersonal, climate, sustainability, transdisciplinary.
Interpersonal relations. So, soft skills, what do you think is missing? What do you think would be somehow an element that conjugate your technical disciplines, whatever you're studying, to make our better, more successful individuals.
We have somebody else.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for your words again, and I believe the psychological effects of our major on people would be very beneficial for us.
Great. All right.
Hi, I think one of the main problems we have with curriculum is that we do not actually have any like medical information about climate change and its effects, except for I've been here for 6 years. I'm a final year student, so I do know that there's nothing else except for one thing. We do mention pollution in chest disease, and that's about it. There's nothing else about the climate change and its effects on the humans.
Excellent. Yeah, great thing.
I think lots of the people only watching, not seeing. And firstly, I want all of the people not only watching, sometimes seeing.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's a brilliant one, learning to see, not just watch.
First of all, thank you for a very well presented segment by each one of the professors. I'd like to ask if we can integrate more innovation in a pretty grade-oriented major, that kind of stuff.
More innovation. Or someone's innovation, that's something.
Hello, okay. I think we need more visuals in our education.
Visuals.
Yeah, because there is, when I learned sine, cosine, and tan, I didn't understand until I saw visual for it, like in the internet.
Makes sense. Great.
So we'll come to the person online. Everybody be thinking of your word because we're going to come to every single person.
Who else? I mean, I heard words such as innovation, sustainability. I love very much. Gentleman said, I like to see better, no, see through or observe. I mean, this is your word.
just
I love
observe,
it
see.
because it's a very good definition in terms of how to conceptualize things, how really to have a clear understanding. You have something to say, sir? Please.
And we want to hear from women as well. We want to hear from everybody. And you can repeat what's been said. So if somebody said visuals or climate, you can repeat those. So for
But
you
if you are
personally,
original, you get an award.
for you personally, we have 10 minutes left. So for you personally, what would you like to see added?
Let's keep on, maybe someone wants to, yes.
There's a,
Couple at the back
There.
and up here.
okay, yeah.
First of all, I would like to thank you guys for actually visiting our university. It's really honoring for us, I feel like one of the most important things that needs to be added in our curriculum, especially for molecular biology, there needs to be more practical lessons, like more lessons about, how can I say this, more lessons where you go to lab, where you study specimens. I feel like that will add a lot more value to our lessons that we are seeing right now.
Practical applicability. There was a girl in the
Girl at the
back.
back.
Here she is.
Got her hand up.
Look. Look.
Think it's important to learn psychological formation on the field we're focused on, because we don't know in the beginning of our careers, we don't know how to act towards people, maybe towards patients, or what we're facing, basically.
That's human relations element. We have more people who want to say something? I'm sure there are.
I would like to add something while we're waiting for the students. Can I just add one quick thing? Thank you. It occurred to me that we also didn't mention a very important phenomenon that has caused a lot of grief and is causing a lot of grief in the global, highly multicultural society, and that is religion. So in the curriculum of the 21st century, it seems really important that young people should study the spiritual core of world religious traditions, so that we have a lot greater appreciation for other religious traditions, while many people are very faithful to their own traditions, so that instead of fear and hostility, there is a mutual appreciation, because it is a reality that the majority of the population around the world still defines itself as religious, and that is an important thing to acknowledge. But how much do we understand the common spiritual core that cuts across wisdom traditions and all of our very different identities? There is the common spiritual core, there are the very specific religious histories of each group, and then there is ethnic trauma that gets woven into these religious traditions. And so we have all kinds of challenges that result in behavior because we don't understand that. In a global society, that's yet another aspect of education that allows us to have the kind of interpersonal relationships where we really show up for each other, and we show up for every angle on knowledge and learning. And probably the most exciting, for me, the most exciting developments in curriculum in the 21st century is the growing recognition of the complementarity of scientific and spiritual understanding, something that has been completely two different territories that couldn't even speak to each other. More and more serious science is now showing the complementarity of fundamental spiritual understanding and scientific knowledge. And so I think it's important for curriculum in the 21st century to actually include that, explore that, and help young people feel confident and competent in this territory and not on the defensive.
Thank you. But this is also the cultural elements, the tradition, so you don't have to see it only from the region's point of view. It's the cultural aspects, the traditions that count.
Yes.
Extremely. I would like to play it differently now. I want to give this to you, and you say something, and then you pass it to another person that you trust. That you know who's going to say something. And then we keep on going. So it's your responsibility to make sure that the person you pass the microphone to is going to say something. Okay?
No pressure, no pressure.
Don't interfere.
No pressure.
So
thanks for your speeches, as you are just like lights on our roads because of the education in our future. So I was just gonna put a point on some mechanical way in our just like education in the medicine wise. So we are all just like taking the theoretical, the more like lessons in more information coming to us, and then we're just like making them up, but we're not like getting really information about the criticism and then the time management, also the crisis and time management. So I was just like thinking about the sustainability of it. So we have to collaborate them, as the professor told us in the first letter. We have to collaborate them with our information and then the time and the crisis management also. So these are my words. So who am I trusting in? I'm trusting someone, but he's in the crew of the.
No.
Yeah.
You can look around and choose a person without.
I'm choosing him so because he's my friend and I'm trusting him so much, so he's gonna speak about it.
Keep on.
I just wanted to say, I think critical thinking is also very important as well. Being able to think outside of the box is very crucial for every discipline, in my opinion. And now I need to pass it to someone that I know and trust. I don't know.
We don't know it, we will know later, so at least make it first move. Good.
So I would like to suggest a problem-based learning. So Eastern University has this system, and because I tried it, I think I learned more effectively, and it actually awakes my passion in learning. I'm a medical student, so by searching and learning in order to solve a problem related to the patient, by using symptoms, clinical cases, I actually find it very vast, and I can learn so much and faster. So I think it's a good idea.
Look around and pass on, look around and pass on, establish eye contact, and that's it. Go around. Keep on, don't hesitate,
I don't know anyone else.
don't hesitate, through and pass on. No, you're right, you're right.
What about one of the young women in front?
Yeah.
I think in this day and age, it's already been said, but climate change is like really important and it affects everyone and it will continue to affect our world and like the future generations a lot. And I also really agree on the religion thing. Religion shouldn't, like, different religious people shouldn't be something like that they look at each other like enemies for, I think.
I think this deserves an applause.
I actually don't know what we're talking about, so but all I will say is thank you so much for being here. And I feel like we need all this kind of things to sometimes it motivates you when you hear other people, the way they have been, how they went through their own journey. So it motivates you to go through your own journey.
Beautiful, that was beautiful. Thank you.
That's all.
Last one, yeah.
Hi again. I'm so sorry about the last times I cannot speak. I couldn't speak your questions because I'm a personal one here. These are students. Firstly, I think the students talking much better than my speaking. But thanks for coming here. Thanks for section. My importance is this. Theory and practice, unfortunately, is not overlap. The school include theory, life include practice. I think this is dilemma. This is the most important issue. I think this is my critical area about that. Thank you so much.
Very well.
Before I say something.
Thank you so much for your speaking. Thank you so much.
So I think there's another aspect. So we add some topics, okay, that's okay, but we miss something. Maybe we can think about how can we learn them more effectively. So we need to add something that makes us learn more effectively. So can be called like effective learning tests, something like that, I don't know. But there are tons of drugs. Name of them, there are a lot. We need to learn all of them. But they don't tell us how to learn them effectively. They just tell us that this works like that, and you need to know that, you need to know that. So how can I remember all of them? Why don't you teach me that kind of spots, that important tricks? Maybe it's important spots.
Teach me how to learn. Yes, that's. Teach me how to learn. I see that there are people hiding in the back of the room, and these are sometimes they are someone who has to say something but doesn't want. Now you are.
I feel like we are not taught about accessibility that much. I don't think people realize how important it is until they suffer from a big injury or anything like that. I feel like there are huge flaws when it comes to city planning, or, you know, basically my answer is accessibility, but yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Here? Yes, please.
First, thanks for being here. We appreciate about it. I was never think about like our future education. I was just like, we're seeing this education. I was thinking like we should make it. So you make us think about it's not really good. I'm trying to see.
You want to comment?
She says that she doesn't often think about the further education of herself. She's just focused on the education that she's currently taught.
Thanks to everybody. You all deserve an applause for being with us today, for having the patience of thinking it through. I mean, the most important thing is not to find a solution right now. You know, you have to keep thinking what is best for you, what is best for the society. Huh? This is our mutual engagement. So I will now leave it to Amanda to conclude.
Everybody, it was wonderful to have your input. I'm going to reflect back to you. Wave your hand if we missed anything. So you would like to see in the curriculum for the 21st century, more innovation, more practical education, for example, more labs in the medical, better visuals, the psychology of human interaction, religion and religious tolerance, learning to see, not just to watch. Climate change mentioned several times, thank you. And I promise that will go forward to the Conference of the Parties at the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change in Brazil in 2025. So I promise you those recommendations will be on the global stage. Psychology, problem-based learning, critical thinking skills, life skills like time management and memory skills. How do we better learn to learn? So thank you for a very rich session. Thank you to our fabulous panelists, both online and in person. And we look forward to seeing you in the concluding session. Oh, our esteemed chair of the World Academy of Art and Science, Gary Jenkins, is with us and would like the final word. This is the end. The session is over, Gary.
Because I missed the beginning, I don't know what you said.
We just summarized for you.
Oh, okay, I have a question. How many of you know the greatest single threat to human health in the world? Greatest single threat to human health in the world. Anyway. You can't hear me.
How many of you know the greatest threat to human lives?
Is it the humans themselves? Is it the humans themselves? I think the human themselves are the biggest threat to human lives. Is that correct?
Wouldn't you agree, you're studying, are you medical students? Wouldn't you agree that in your medical education, that learning the single greatest threat to human life is an important thing for every physician to know? Would you? You know the answer.
I think this gentleman in the green knows the answer.
That's why I said I wasn't here. Of course, according to the World Health Organization, it's climate change. It's climate change. I addressed an audience of physicians in Europe about a year ago. I'm not a physician, though I went to medical school for 1 year. But, and I asked them this question, and nobody could answer. And these were top level professionals in Europe. And I said, what could be more important for us to know than the greatest source of, and one of the responses was, but we're only doctors. We don't create climate change. So what does it matter whether we know that or not? We have to treat it. I said, but you can prevent it. How can we prevent it? We're only doctors are there for it. We can prevent it because people respect physicians more than any other profession in the world. More than any other profession in the world. And if you tell every patient that you meet that climate change really matters, and then you tell them it matters for you, it matters for your children, it matters for the next generations, they'll listen to you much more than they'll listen to the scientists, much more than they'll listen to the politicians and everything. You have a power, an influence to do good. And don't think it's just what you study and what you specialize in. Your view counts. That's the power and the reputation that the medical profession has earned. So you can change the world. Thank you.